Let me tell you something that took me years to actually understand, not just know intellectually. Women over 60 don't flirt the way they did at 30. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually better, more intentional, more honest. But if you're still waiting for obvious signals, you're going to keep missing what's right in front of you. I've watched this happen dozens of times. A man sitting at a community event, a woman nearby asking him questions, genuine warmth in her voice, and he walks away thinking, nice lady. 3 days later, he's telling his buddy he never meets anyone interesting. Meanwhile, she went home wondering why he seemed so unengaged. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. This is about understanding how mature women actually communicate interest, because the way they do it at this stage of life is fundamentally different from anything you experienced in your 30s or 40s. Here's the first thing you need to internalize. Women our age have been through enough to know that direct rejection still stings. So they test the waters through conversation. They ask questions that seem completely ordinary but are actually doing a lot of work underneath the surface. The questions themselves aren't the signal. How she asks them, what she does after you answer, whether she stays or finds a reason to leave, that's the signal. So let's talk about what these questions actually are, and more importantly, what's really happening when she asks them. The question that trips up more men than any other is some version of, so what does your day actually look like now? Sometimes it's phrased as asking about retirement. Sometimes it's, are you keeping busy? Sometimes it's just, what have you been up to lately? The words change, the intention doesn't. She is not asking because she wants a schedule. She's asking because she wants to know if you're a man who still has energy for life. That's it. That's the whole question underneath the question. Here's what most men do wrong. They either undersell completely, oh, not much, just taking it easy, or they list obligations like they're reading from a calendar. Neither of these does anything for her. The first one signals that you've checked out. The second one signals that you're not actually present in this conversation right now. What works is specificity with genuine enthusiasm, not performed enthusiasm, not trying to sound impressive, actual real interest in something you're doing. If you've been building something in your garage, say that. If you've started cooking seriously for the first time in your life, say that. If you've been walking every morning and it's changed how you feel, say that. One real thing said with genuine energy beats 5 impressive things said flatly every single time. And then this part matters. You turn it back to her, not as a technique, as actual curiosity. Because if you're genuinely interested in her, you'll want to know what a life looks like too. That natural back and forth, that's what she's looking for. She wants to know if talking to you feels like a conversation or an interview. Now here's another question that seems completely domestic and isn't. Some version of, do you take care of yourself okay, cooking and all that? Or she might ask directly if you cook. What she's actually asking is whether you're someone who would need taking care of or someone who could show up as a partner. Women at this stage of life have often spent decades being the person who holds everything together domestically. They're not looking to sign up for that again with someone new. So when she asks about cooking, she's really asking, are you someone I'd be adding to my life or someone I'd be managing? The wrong answer isn't, I can't cook. Plenty of men can't cook and do fine. The wrong answer is one that signals helplessness or that you haven't thought about it all. There's a difference between I mostly just eat whatever's around, said with a shrug, and I've actually been teaching myself a few things. I'm no chef, but I can make a decent meal. One of those signals a man who's engaged with his own life. The other doesn't. You don't have to be a great cook. You have to be someone who takes his own well-being seriously enough to have thought about it. That's what she's reading. There's a question that goes deeper than either of those, and it usually comes after she's decided she actually likes talking to you. It's some version of asking about your family, your kids, your grandkids, how connected you are. On the surface, it sounds warm and friendly. Underneath, she's doing something quite specific. She's trying to understand your emotional availability. She's seen enough men her age who are either so tangled up in family drama that there's no room for anything else, or so estranged from their families that it signals something about how they handle close relationships. She's looking for neither of those. She's looking for someone who has love in his life, gives it well, receives it well, and still has room for more. The men who answer this poorly fall into predictable patterns. Some get bitter, talking about kids who don't call enough, about feeling forgotten. Some go the opposite direction and make it sound like family is so all-consuming that there's genuinely no space. And some men, this one is subtle, answer in a way that makes it clear they're still living in the past, comparing everything to what family life used to look like when their wives were alive. None of these are fatal. She's not judging your family situation, she's reading your relationship with it. A man who can say, my kids have their own lives and I love that for them and we're still close, is saying something very different from a man who says the same facts but with resentment underneath. She hears the underneath part. What she's hoping to hear, not a rehearsed version, but the real version, is that you've made peace with how your family has evolved, that love exists there even if it looks different than it used to, and that you understand there are different kinds of love and you're open to more of them. There's a question that doesn't even sound like a question. It sounds like a compliment. You seem really positive. How do you stay that way? Or sometimes it's just an observation she makes. You have a good attitude about things. This is the most sophisticated signal on this entire list and the one men most consistently fumble. When she says this, she is not complimenting your personality as a way to end the conversation. She is opening a door. She's saying, I see something in how you carry yourself and I want to understand it better. She wants to know what you're made of, what you've been through, how you've handled it, what you believe about life now that you've lived enough of it to actually know something. The fumble is deflection. Oh, I'm not that positive. I have my bad days too. That's not humility. That's a closed door. The other fumble is making it sound easy. I just decide to be happy every day. That's not wisdom. That sounds like you either haven't been through much or you're not being honest. What she actually wants is the real version. The version where life was genuinely hard at some point, maybe still is in some ways, and you found something true that helps you keep going. That's magnetic at this age. Not because she needs saving or because she's looking for a guru, because she's been through her own hard things. And she wants to know if you're the kind of person who comes out of difficulty with more depth, not less. This is also where you learn the most about her, because if she's asking this, she's probably asking it for a reason that goes beyond curiosity about you. She's likely thinking about her own relationship to positivity, her own losses, her own way of moving through life. If you answer well, she'll share something real. And that's when the conversation stops being a conversation and becomes something else. There's one more layer to all of this that I think is more important than any individual question. She is watching how you listen, not just how you answer. A lot of men, actually who haven't dated in a long time, treat these conversations like they're being interviewed and they need to perform well. So they focus entirely on what they're going to say next. They answer questions, but they're not really in the conversation. She notices this immediately. It's one of the fastest ways to kill whatever was building. The men who do this well, who actually create real connection in these conversations, are the ones who are genuinely curious about her. They ask things because they actually want to know. They pick up on something she said 3 minutes ago and come back to it. They're not running a script, they're just present. That presence, that genuine attention is rarer than you think. And at this age, after years of feeling overlooked or like the world has moved on, a man who actually pays attention and responds to who she is specifically, not to women in general, is deeply attractive. The practical thing I want you to take away from all of this is simple. Next time you're in a conversation with a woman your age and she's asking you questions, don't just answer them. Ask yourself what she might actually be asking underneath, and then respond to that, not with a rehearsed line, with something honest and real about who you actually are. Because here's what I've seen happen over and over again. The men who feel invisible aren't invisible. They're just answering the surface question instead of the real one. And the moment they start engaging with what's actually being asked, everything changes. You're not too old for this. You're actually at the age where you finally have enough experience to do it well.